Well, we've got a time now for panel discussion, and we asked you for questions to send in that we could ask our panel. So, Jorge, first of all, the first question was related to personal issues, and the question is, how do you best balance work, life, and ministry with all the responsibilities that we're carrying? Your thoughts?
Hello, everyone. It's a privilege to see you and to have this meeting in this morning in my country. Thank you, brother, for this organization. In my opinion, we must have clear what is our priorities. If I want to have a balance in my life, I need to be clear what is my first priority. My first priority is God. In the second priority is my own life. It's very important that my life be good health, good physical health, good psychological health, good spiritual health. And then the other priority is my wife, then my children, and then the ministry. When I transturn our priority, we can have a big problem in our life. I see that many people have family problems and psychological problem and economical problem. So these people is very difficult to increase and grow in the ministry. So we need to see what is the most important thing in order to be a great ministry in our life.
Thanks very much, Jorge. Santosh, next question was for you. This is a very broad question, but how do I grow spiritually? How do I grow spiritually?
I think just a couple of three things. One is you cannot negate the importance of discipline. So I think the most important thing is to look at our own personal spiritual discipline. Integrate in the area with our life. How engaged we are with that. So that's the first most important thing. We cannot Two is the community. It's very important in aspect of community with which can we travel and journey together. A personal life alone in this world, a call for a community living together. Iron sharpening iron, swearing one another on. So community is the second most important. The third most equally important is a structure of accountability. A system by which you are kept accountable by somebody else, or you also become accountable for, an accountability partner for others, either a mentor or a personal journey with us. This combination of these three things are very important in terms of practicing. But at the same time, this emerges out of a heart of wanting to grow, wanting to learn, a heart which is open and vulnerable, and willingness to be open, vulnerable, grow, and grow closer to God and close to each other, and be open to be open for God revealing our own brokenness and our own corrupt heart. So if that attitude is there, and then you put in the discipline, I think God will use our discipline to grow. Thank you.
Thanks, Santosh. So it was a little bit muffled, but discipline, community, the structure of accountability, and then just being open to God in the ways that he's directing. So Alex, the next question is for you. How can leaders grow in their personal life of devotion specifically?
Yeah, I think that's a very important question. And life of devotion is is something common in all men and women of God in the Bible. If we see people like Moses, Elijah, all have their devotion life with Christ, and I think that is a common denominator if in our walk with God. No one could say I am walking with the Lord and I don't have that personal life of devotion with Him. Do I have a priority every night, every morning to sit before the Lord and have my devotion time with Him? And I think the key word again is discipline. It takes discipline to have that devotion life with Christ, and I think we have to make it a priority to allocate that private time of devotion with Jesus, with the Lord, and even the Lord Jesus in His life as human being here on earth. There are a lot of places in the Bible where He has always sneaked out to have that personal devotion with the Father. He has always frequented the Mount of Olives, so He has gone several times to Mount of Olives where He would have his time with the Father. In Mark chapter 1, for example, when He was in Capernaum, the Bible says He went to a solitary place and He had His time of devotion there. So when people came and told Him, everybody likes you, everybody wants you to come, He said, it is enough in this village, we have to move on to another village. So he received instruction from the Father that he had to move on. So if it were me, I would say, okay, everybody likes me in this village, let me continue here. So life of devotion would help us to be sensitive to God's voice and to follow the voice of the Lord as He leads. So I think that is not something optional, it is a must.
Thanks very much, Alex. So to Augustine, to you now, and really it's a couple of questions which are related here around students. How do we first reach out and involve medical students, particularly for fellowships which are mainly older people? And what are the best ways to ensure that students become active members when they qualify rather than drifting away?
I was saying that's quite a broad question, but I will summarize it in a few key words. And I think it's important. I remember my grandfather saying to me that if you want to smell the nice food of a neighbor, you must position yourself in a good direction of wind so that you catch it from that direction. And I think if we want to reach to students, we need to position ourselves in a way that will catch them. And why do we need to catch them? And that is probably two quotations that I remember in mind. Is the one from the CMF Douglas Johnson in the UK, who once said, if you get the student and the literature right, the rest will follow. But also, Peter, you always say Christian medical groups are best grown from bottom up. Meaning, if we want to grow an organization and we start from the top, it's usually very, very weak way to start. And of course, we remember a lot of quotation from actually in our constitution. We talk about a number of medical schools. That worldwide there are about 1.2 million medical students in 2,600 medical schools, in 50 dental schools, and 12 million. And what an opportunity to start. Where do we start? We're definitely going to connect with those existing medical schools. That's the first point of entry. The second will probably be within the medical schools. A lot of people have the organization there that are running there. So where to get them is to go to those organizations. In our case, IFIS was one of the key, which is an organization that cater for medical, for not necessarily medical students, but also non-medics. But you have as well the churches around, which happen to have a lot of medics and medical students in case you don't have access to university. But those will be my key point of entry, where I will come to a medical school or in a country, identify is the medical school. If there is, I will go to that medical school. Is there Christian students there? And we've done that many times, even around Africa. You just pitch up and you don't know who to contact. You just come and say at the medical school, is there any Christian students? And you pitch to that person, and suddenly the group grows from there. So that's basically how you will start. Now, your second part of your question, I think, was the best way to ensure students become active members. And that's also very big question. Somebody was once said, there are two groups of 3 times in one's life: a young person, adults, and elderly person. In young person or student group, for that matter, they have time, they have energy, but they don't have money. And in the middle, you have no time, you have a lot of energy, and probably money. You have money. And in the later part of your time, you probably have time, but very little energy and often money. So you see which part of the component you need to balancing out so that you can attract the other. The strategy that we do sometime in Durban is to organize lunch, and students they love lunch. Myself, I use, especially when it's free lunch, I will show up. I'm just giving away my tricks. Now you will arrange lunch and call the student for lunch, and suddenly they come after eating, you feed them. Now you can talk to them about your organization, the mission, and everything. They will listen to you. And next time when you call for lunch again, they will be back. So mentorship happens and the exchange happens during those type of things. And of course, because they have time and they don't have money, they will require that, and that the elder folks will contribute to make it more vibrant. So all of these things will help. But also most importantly is to get the young people involved, to own the organization. What we notice is that once the young people have joined, it's a one-way conversation. You want to feed them with food and all the information and everything, but you don't allow them to express their gifting and everything. But once they start to be involved, you give them the responsibilities, they become much more involved. It helps them to feel as well welcome and eventually be member of the organization. Your last part of your question, which is you ask, how do we avoid them drift away after they are after they are student years? Now they are doctors, they're earning money, they don't need you much. You've given them all that you had. Now what? Yes, this is a dangerous part, because now they're earning, now suddenly they have money, they don't have time, and all of that stuff. And obviously, if they are not educated and they are not mentored properly, this is the critical component. And we know for sure those that have been mentored, they have been warned about this, and chances are they will keep that. So we keep them in a mentorship cycle. We keep them connected. We follow them up. We give them a ring. We ask them, how are you doing? Are you doing well? And that's probably the biggest role of mentors, to continue to get them involved. And we do sometimes, but sometimes we fail at that. And probably that's a discussion for another day, since I have less time to talk. But otherwise, I was gonna go through the mentorship component and how to minimize that gap. Thanks, Peter. I hope I was reasonable in your 3 questions you have asked me.
Yeah, thanks very much. Really helpful. Lots of wisdom there. You might have noticed in the chat that Santosh thinks that older people do have lots of energy. So our next question is for Santosh. Santosh, how do we raise up leaders for national movements? We know that often the success will depend on one strong leader or a group of leaders in taking it forward. How do we raise leaders for national associations?
I just wanted to tell Agustin that because he climbed Kilimanjaro. He thinks that none of us can do it. We will see it next in Nepal. I mean, sorry, I just wanted to. It was so serious. Everybody was so serious. I thought we should have a little bit of light-hearted conversations. I think the key things are looking for the right people with the right characteristics or right mindset. One thing is a couple of three or four things which we should look for. One is people with a big picture vision. There are a large number of students or young leaders, but most of them are caught up in their own small personal career choices or small group this thing. Somewhere you need to look for those people with a big picture vision for the country, or who can be challenged to see beyond their small areas of engagement. So that is one thing to look for. Two, they should be people with a relational component who can relate well. If they're not people who have the ability to relate with their peers and the seniors and juniors at the same level or cut across different generations, you cannot be a good leader. Of course, you cannot compromise the issue of character. There shouldn't be people who will exemplify by their life, role model with their life, both character and excellence in their work. And the final thing should be, they should not be people who will do too many things. If you get people who will do too many things, they will be micromanagers, do things. They should be people who can get things done through others. So when I look for a person who can be built as a leader, these are the four things I look for, or we should look for. One, big picture. Two, character. Three, relationships across generations, and people who can get things done and not do things themselves.
Thanks very much. Back to Alex. I've just got two more questions, one for Alex and one for Jorge. We'll run just a little bit over time here. But Alex, fundraising is, all groups need money to be able to do things, to run conferences, to finance travel, to pay for resources and so on. And it's a particular challenge in smaller groups in resource poor countries and areas as well. So how do you raise funds for a national group?
Yeah, that's an important question, and that's my heartbeat. And people always say you are from Sudan, in South Sudan, a country that has been in 50 years of civil wars. But how come you keep going on, and you always come to conferences in big numbers? How do you make it? I think there are a couple of things. The members are committed, and I always tell people we have a spirit of giving. So we are a small fellowship, but all the few members that we have that spirit of giving, and that's why each time we go to conferences, people are surprised that South Sudan bring a big number of people to, if it is to Arusha or to Addis or to Kenya. We always come in big numbers, and the reason is that our people are giving. So that's number one. I think secondly, we make our work known. People need to see what we are doing. I think it is also value for money. If somebody is giving support, where is his money going, and for what purpose? So I think making people know the purpose for which they are giving that money, it is important. That's really important. And of course, we also mobilize even our members who are not in country. Our members who are, for instance, who have migrated to the US, to the UK, and other places. Whenever we have a conference or whenever we have an outreach, we also reach out to them and say, okay, guys, you are out of the country, but you are still our members. Please give towards this ministry. And because of that same spirit of generosity that they have, they always have sent money to our fellowship. So I think those are the things that that's how we mobilize funds through our members, if in country or out of country, but also letting people know what we do and where their money is going. And there are people who have always been willing to support because they see the work done with the money that they give. If it is a local church, if it is a local organization, if it is a group, if it is an individual. So sometimes we reach out to individual Christians, we reach out to Christian organizations, we reach out to local churches, and those people who can give towards supporting ministry, they have always done so.
Thanks very much. So, and finally, Jorge, to you, the question is about conflicts in leadership. And, you know, I guess in ICMDA, we have the added challenge, don't we, of working across cultures, across languages, across ethnic divides, even between countries which might be at war with each other, but also within teams as well, conflicts. So how do you deal with conflicts in leadership, some general principles?
It's certainly that many times we, in our experience for my country and other countries, we had moments of crisis in the leadership. I think that the worst things that we must avoid is when people look or seek self-ambition, self-protagonism, self-agenda in their heart. So we must be careful about these people, because in the Christian Medical Fellowship is not the place to increase our self-ambition and self-interest and self-agenda. So we must ask wisdom to God about people that when we perceive the people look or seek self-ambition in the middle of our group, is a big danger for us. Because I saw in the other experience in other country, when one person that interest in protagonism in the group is possible, and is this person is a leader of the group, in the future is a big problem for this association. We must be careful about this person. Many people have capacity of leadership, capacity to preach, capacity of to teach, but careful, because this person in the future can be a big problem for our association. So we need to have always to ask to God always wisdom about what is the key person that have a good condition, a spiritual condition, psychological condition, in order to participate in the leadership of the Christian Medical Fellowship. One thing that is possible to avoid this problem is the senior of the group. It's important to continue in the middle of the group. We need young people, as Augustine said, but we need also a person that continue the vision, continue the mission, continue the line, correct line, in order to avoid all the big problems in the middle of us. So we need to stay communion with God and see what is the person that maybe produce in the future problems. I don't know if it's clear that I said, but think that we must be careful about the person that protagonism or self-ambition and self-interest and
Yes, very, very clear. Thank you, Jorge. And I think that the key thing is that giftedness and character are two different things, but it's character that's really important in the long run. There are some very gifted people who are not of the character to be in leadership. And the other way, there are people with good character who, if given responsibility, will grow in giftedness.
Sorry, Peter.
Yeah.
When the problem is coming in the leadership, so I want to say something more. We need humility and unity in the middle of us. If we have not humility and we have a proud or whatever, it's a big problem in the leadership. We need to keep humility as Jesus, as the Lord. We teach us we need to pray one another, to esteem high than I esteem. So the unity, always humility among us. When conflict comes, if I have humility, it's possible that I raise the problem with my brothers in the group. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much to all of our panel. In the panel discussion, there was one question that we didn't get to. The question we were going to ask Augustine was, what are the main priorities of a field worker? And this was the question that had got the most upvotes.
Well, the question of priority is actually a very good one, because one always asks ourselves, where do you start? Especially in Africa, where they say, how do you eat an elephant? And the answer is always easy in an African way. They say, bite after another bite. So one bite at a time. And I think that is the key message. In ICMDA, we have a broader, the scope is so big that you don't know, you are overwhelmed just by knowing what your activities that you have to do. And the whole idea that we just trying to break it down to say, what can I prioritize this year or this month or this 3 months or the next wherever? And then go, once you have the priority for the whole year, you break it down to a trimester, you break it down to a week, to a month. It will help you to pace yourself. Therefore, things that can come into the next session can always wait and come through at that particular time. And that is why I have to say, that's the first point I want to say. The second point, which is probably another most important point, is that what is making us ICMDA different from other organizations? Because other organizations, they are there and they are wonderful and they do wonderful work, but they're just not ICMDA. So identifying what differentiate, what stand out from who we are as ICMDA probably will determine what priority should be. And that is the key as well to us saying, what is the vision of the ICMDA? What is the mission? How do we achieve that? And once we start thinking, this is the vision, to be a Christ witness in every community. This is the mission, to start and strengthen. How do we do it? By training, by doing all of that. And then you will start understanding that, okay, so how do I accomplish the vision is in this area? And that will help you to focus and narrow what you need to do now and later, because ultimately, if we have as field workers to continue to foster the vision of ICMDA into these things, these are the key things that will guide us to what we should be prioritizing. Anything else is a nice thing, but it can wait. Well, I'm not referring to other things that you know. Yeah. So that is the first thing. Now, if we have now to say on a third level, which is my last point of saying, where is the country, where am I being allocated? So if you are located, let's say you are area representative in a particular region, first thing is to establish the vision is to start to strengthen and all of that. Where are we in these countries that are in my field? So that you don't run all over the show and believe that you can solve the whole world's problems. But if you have a particular set of areas where you count your countries that are in that particular region, say to them, where are these countries in my scope? Is this country doing well? Is this country performing, or is this country struggling? Connect with the chairpersons of those countries. Identify what are the issues. Then they need you to strengthen that. Now you'll say to me, but that is even bigger. How do I start? Well, ICMDA has put on an assessment tool that can also help you. You can use that assessment tool and go through each of the country in your region and say, where is this country? How do they need? How do they communicate? How do I assess where they are and what are the needs? And I think that collaboration between you as a field worker and the people that you are coming to serve should be a continuous relationship of give and take. And I think that will guide you in a way that will save you. But bearing in mind that these are autonomous organizations. These are not like, you don't have orders to give them. These are countries that say, we are member of ICMDA, but they have things that they do themselves. They organize their chairperson, they organize their committee, their program, their whatever. But how do you meet them being autonomous and at the same time fulfill the vision of ICMDA in that relationship? So that's where you have to navigate and find your way through it. How did I do, Peter?
You did great, Augustine. Thank you.